members of the House of Representatives will commence sitting for Thursday's plenary. And from the other paper of today, the House has scheduled 3 motions and 7 bills for consideration. And 3 of these 7 bills will be coming for 3rd reading, while the other 3 will be coming up for 2nd reading. And one of those ones that will be coming for 2nd reading is a bill for an act, to actually subject the nominees of Award of National Honors to Senate screening. That bill will be coming for 2nd reading. Well, as usual, we always have with us here the chairman of House Committee on Rules and Business, Representative Emmanuel Okejeff. He's here to tell us more on what to expect by the time the House reconvenes this morning. Thank you for your time again.
Thanks for having me. Good morning. Yeah, like you pointed out, 3 of the bills are for 3rd reading. 3rd reading means they will be passed today and submitted to the Senate for their concurrence, after which it will go over to the President for his assent. The bill that you mentioned, that is subjecting the National Honors Award to confirmation by the Senate, is actually might be a longer. It's a consolidation actually of 3 bills on the same subject matter. Mine is the lead one, so I'll be taking the floor today to try to convince my colleagues that we need to do that, subject national honors to Senate confirmation before, and also the bill also seeks to withdraw the honors if it turns out subsequently that you are not qualified in the first place, or you've done something that would have disqualified you in the first place to get the national honor. So those are some of the issues that we'll be taking a look at. Like you mentioned, we'll have 3 motions coming up for hearing. One of the motions is to take a look at the scourge across the country now, that of meningitis. A member brought the matter of urgent public importance yesterday. It's slated today, so we'll take a look at it and seek ways of trying to, bring down the scourge. There's also a motion that calls for, is calling for the National Population Commission to establish and maintain a more efficient system of registering deaths and births in this country. We need that data for a lot of things in this country. So those are, and we also have a motion to urge the federal government to drop the 20% tariff imposed on imported medicine until our local production is such that we take care of our needs. Let them drop the tariff that is imposed. Of course, today due to a resolution of the House, we invited the Ministers of National Budget and National Planning and Finance to come and throw more light on the issue of pension and pensioners and their payments. So they will take the floor today and try to explain things to the House. So those are some of the issues that will come up on the floor.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Well, as usual, we still expect that sometimes the matters of urgent public importance must still come up on the floor, which, well, by the rules of the House, will be taken subsequently. So, but as it is right now, members are yet to commence today's plenary, and therefore we'll bring to you a repeat of the House plenary. But as soon as the House reconvenes, we'll take you straight to the chamber.
AC2 of Nigerian Custom Apapa feel concerned that he was wrongly dismissed from service of the Nigerian Custom Board and asked that a petition be presented to this House, being the House of the People, to look into the matter with a view of Directorate, which is known as PITAD. And here these directors are appealing to the House for justice. It borders that the petitions here state that the petitioners have said that the termination of their appointment did not follow due process and did not adhere to the pension, or rather the PITAD conditions of service as contained in sections 5(2) sub 4 of the Condition of Service Act, Mr. Speaker. They have asked that this is the House where they know they can get justice, and they seek the immediate intervention of the House in respect of this unlawful termination. If it is your wish, Mr. Speaker, my highly respected colleagues, I will want to lay the petition before the House.
Please proceed and lay the petition. Petitions referred to the Committee on Public Petition.
Order 8, I seek the leave of the House to move a motion of urgent public importance. I so move. I also seek leave of the House to suspend the appropriate rules of the House to enable us take this motion. I so move.
I rise to second the motion as ably moved by Patterson. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. The motion will be taken tomorrow. Chairman, Rules and Business, please note.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, National Bureau of Services Establishment Bill 2017, first reading. Federal Universities of Technology, Kaduna, Lagos, and Enugu Establishment Bill 2017, first reading.
Mr. Speaker, do I move that the House do receive the report of the Committee on Political Petitions on the petition by Alpha Onum against the Nigerian Customs Service and on the unlawful retirement from service? The second one, Mr. Speaker, that the House do receive the report of the Committee on Political Petition on the petition by Odo Daniel against the Federal Road Safety Commission on the unlawful termination of its appointment. Mr. Speaker, the third report is that the House received the report on politician on petition by Stella Chinyere Idu and Co. against the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) on behalf of Mr. Festus Ijere on the alleged wrongful termination of appointment. Mr. Speaker, the fourth is the report of the petition by Anthony Agboloho and Associates against the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Company (LNG). And the last is that the House will receive the petition of the Committee on Egan Agbai and Co. on behalf of Chief Festus Oduenyi against Nigerian Customs Service for conversion of textile goods in the sum of 96,460,000 naira only. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
First order of the day, honorable colleagues, the third reading of the bill for an act to establish a Chartered Institute of Capital Market Registrars. House Leader.
For an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Capital Market Registrars to regulate and control the practice of share registration and for other matters related. HB 79 be read a third time. I so move.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
A bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Capital Market Registrars to regulate and control the practice of share registrations and for other related matters. Third reading.
Bill read the third time and passed.
May I move that the bill for an act to establish the forensic DNA database in Nigeria, charged with the responsibility for the collection of DNA samples, making forensic DNA analysis, using DNA profile and information targeted at addressing doubts in criminal and DNA-related issues, and for other related matters, be read a second time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Motion has moved by Honorable Dr. Pat Asadu. I so second.
This bill is meant to help our investigators, and as captured in the lead debate, the DNA is just that chemical in most cells of human beings that are so similar for every human, but so uniquely different that you can use a DNA of an individual to trace where the individual has passed or where his relatives are. Now, when DNA samples are picked, either from a population or from crime scenes, and broken in laboratories and sequenced, and given numbers, those numbers form DNA profiles. And this bill is seeking that we, as a country, establish a database based on computerizing those numbers in such a way that when further samples are brought in, or when, for any reason, we need to know who has done what. As long as we can access the DNA, and this DNA exists in so many small cells that even finger touches and semen, saliva, blood, sweat can access DNA samples. And we are hoping that by establishing this DNA database and data bank, Nigeria will join the many committees of nations that have established a well-funded, well-managed DNA forensic system. The idea is that if you visit any police interrogation room or other investigating agencies in Nigeria and hear the ways and see the ways we try to extract confessions from criminals and not so criminals, you will find out that we miss a lot. This deal is hoping that a DNA database well-funded and well-established will not just address criminal issues, but also help us in such other contexts like issue of paternity, issue of heredity, issue of lineage tracing. And like I did write, it says DNA analysis is needed also for tracing and treating genetic diseases, genetic fingerprinting for criminology or genetic genealogy in many countries of the world, especially in countries less endowed than Nigeria. And I hope that instead of allowing investigators to be working in the dark or to be using force to extract confessions or holding people against charges to which they did not do anything, a well-organized DNA system will help us free people who have been held in detention for crimes they not committed. Because when DNA profiles are analyzed, even after crime has been committed and even sentences passed, and it shows that the person who is being convicted or who is even on death row has nothing to do with the crime scene. A lot of lives have been saved from that. But for those who have committed offenses and also gone out of circulation, a DNA analysis much later in life can actually link them back to the crime scene. And those who have committed
Defense Academy, he said his son is a year 3 student or was a year 3 student of the school.
Don't forget, you can also watch us live on NTA Parliament channel on channel 306 StarTimes Bouquet. Members have just gone through votes and proceedings of Wednesday's plenary. And then some members have presented petitions from different petitioners. The House today is expecting to receive 2 ministers who were invited at last week, Thursday's plenary, and that is the ministers of Finance and the ministers of Budget and National Planning. Well, it's expected that these ministers will be here today to just brief the members on issues and matters on pension. There are some bills that will be presented today
against AMCOM, the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, for breach of engagement contract without compensation. Their prayer is, Mr. Speaker, that this Honorable House, under your leadership, should come to their aid and direct AMCOM to follow due process in terminating them and compensate them for the 4 years they have worked in recovery projects. May I have your permission to play the
Honorable colleagues, the first business of the day is presentation of 5 bills. And I invite the clerk to read their short titles. Honorable members will recall that on Thursday, 30th March 2017, the House by resolution invited the Honorable Minister of Budget and Planning and the Honorable Minister of Finance to appear and brief the House on measures being taken by the executive arm of the federal government to address the serious challenges facing Nigerian pensioners with a view to ending the embarrassing situation. I now invite the Leader of the House to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Quickly as you can.
Well, the House is now expecting the visitors of the day, the two ministers and other relevant agencies that have been invited. The House has gone to usher in the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, and the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma. As soon as these two top members of the executive arrive at the chamber, well, it's now expected that they will be briefing the members on the challenges facing Nigerian pensioners. And then it's expected after that there will be some questions from members, and then some recommendations are expected to be proffered in finding the best way or the way forward for challenges facing Nigerian pensioners. President has actually given strong indications and have been so committed in trying to ameliorate the plight of Nigerian pensioners. And then the members are actually hoping to hear more from these two members of the top executive council. There have been some moves and some commitment and some programs by the present administration to ensure that all segments of the Nigerian society is being catered for. And this actually has been felt by different sectors. The visitors have just arrived at the chamber. That's the Minister for Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma. Behind him is the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun. Leading them is Esther to the President on National Assembly Matters, Senate, Senator Itainan. A meeting that members describe as a parley between the executive and the legislature. Well, the last time the Minister of Finance was here in the chamber was in 2016 during the sectoral debate, where the minister rolled out some blueprint on what the present administration is doing in trying to ensure that Nigeria comes out of the recession. And then it was a beautiful submission, which Nigerians and the lawmakers themselves commended. Members are seated, getting set to listen to these top members of the Executive Council. It's expected at the end of the day, this meeting will go a long way to address some of these challenges. Sitting in the front row of the seats of the visitors is the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma. And flanked by his left side is the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun. With some of their personal aides. Was actually extended to some other relevant agencies, and then the National Union of Nigerian Pensioners were expected to witness this parley. Well, the members described this as a parley because actually it's just a discussion on the way forward, in cognizance of the fact that the present administration has been doing a lot and will continue to do a lot in terms of pension matters. And today it's expected to be a...
The House is called to order. Please. Honorable members, would you please take your seats? Okay, let me take this leave to welcome specifically the Minister of Budget and Planning, the Minister of Finance, together with their team, to the House of Representatives in order to address what we have deemed to be very important to a critical section of our constituents. And we all recall that on Thursday, 30th of March 2017, the House, by resolution, invited the Honorable Minister of Budget and Planning and the Honorable Minister of Finance to appear and brief the House on measures being taken by the executive to address the serious challenges facing Nigerian pensioners, with a view to ending what has become almost very embarrassing to our country. I now invite, I guess the Minister of Budget and Planning will take the lead. I now invite the Honorable Minister of Budget and Planning to make his presentation to the House.
The Right Honorable Speaker, take the seat. Okay.
first minister that will speak, it's the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma. The speaker has read from the item of today that the first address will be coming from the Minister of Budget and National Planning. And then from the other paper, as soon as he finishes his address, well, there will be calls for questions from legislators. And then, as may be directed by the speaker, and afterwards, the minister will have to address or answer some of those questions. And then before the Minister of Finance, Kemia Doshu, will now mount the podium for our own speech. Well, this meeting was actually announced on the 30th of March 2017, and then members were expected to turn up in March for today's plenary. And from the look of things, actually, a good number of the members are in high spirit for this meeting. Well, if you like, you could describe this as a continuation of the parley between the executive and the legislature on the way forward out of recession, as both the House of Representatives and the executive have been working harmoniously to ensure that the economy gets to its optimal state.
These people removed this thing. They tested it this morning. Somebody removed this.
Although there are some other items on the other paper, but this address today, this meeting between the two ministers and the House of Representatives, it's in fact the focus of today's plenary. And that is why some items on the other paper have been scaled down. Some of them have been stepped down to ensure that they accommodate this meeting, which it's expected will go a long way for Nigeria's development.
You may take the center stage.
The Right Honourable Deputy Speaker, House Leader, other members of the leadership, honourable members of the House of Representatives, let me thank you for this invitation to throw more light on the issues of pension. Now, the pension obligations and provisions of the federal government are in a number of categories. The Office of the Head of Service, civilian pensions, military pensions, police pensions, customs, immigration, and prison pensions, universities pensions, parastatals and railways pensions, DSS pensions, military intelligence agency pensions, and the Retirement Benefits Bond Redemption Fund. Most of these categories were up to date. However, there are problems with the Retirement Benefits Bond Redemption Fund. There have been issues of reconciliation of the numbers there for budgeting purposes. Now, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, is extremely concerned about this. The hearings that you had before, he actually observed them, and he has directed that we must get to the bottom of this as quickly as possible. So he has directed that a committee headed by the Minister of Finance, should meet with all the relevant agencies, reconcile all the numbers, so that since you haven't yet passed the 2017 budget, if there are any implications for the 2017 budget, we will approach you, to make a case for maybe some additional adjustment in the 2017 budget. So that is what His Excellency, the President, has directed, because he is very, very concerned about the issue of pensions. It's something he's extremely concerned about, and he's actually grateful that this has been highlighted. He thanks you for highlighting the issues and has directed that this is a matter that must be resolved as quickly as possible. The fact of the matter is that it's an inherited issue. It started quite some time ago, and we've been seeking to reconcile the numbers. So this is the message that I would like to deliver, that the numbers will be reconciled. If there is any impact on the 2017 budget, you will be approached to make some additional provision for pensions. Thank you very much. That's it. Yes. Thank you.
In case you have questions, we will floor to you to ask one of the questions. And in view of what the information is given, it is stated for the Minister of Finance to take the center stage. We will invite her to do so. So you'll have the presentation. Leader of the House, let me just short.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, mine is going to be very quick, very direct, and maybe a little bit hard on you. My questions, two questions. On a priority scale of 1 to 10, for you and for the government, where would you place the issue of payment of pension? Understanding fully what pension means, is the livelihood of those who are retired. On a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of priority, where would you place it? I ask that question because if it's on the higher rung of the ladder, I would have expected that that would be the first issue that will be settled in presenting the budget. And secondly, you talked in your presentation about inheritance. And whilst I agree that that's very relevant and very important, because we do inherit liabilities, assets, and what we take over government. But I believe we should also take note of the fact that the buck stops at your desk. That issue of inheritance, as relevant as it may be, it becomes old and tired after a while, particularly on the issue of pensions. And I stress the issue of pensions because every single member here, I don't know if people address you, pensioners come to you, but they come to us in our constituencies, in our various constituencies. It's what we hear every day. It's what we address every day. And that's why it has necessitated us summoning you, not even to the committee, but to the committee of the whole, and it's the whole House. That is the man. I'm glad, and I commend Mr. President for giving it that same importance that we in the House have given it. So those are my just two, and I said I would be hard on you, and I hope you take it in good faith. Thank you.
Honorable Chidoka.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Obinna Chidoka, representing Idemili North, Idemili South Federal Constituency of Anambra State. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you for your very, very brief briefing of the House this morning. It was plenary like this that a member raised the issue of pensions. And I know this government has been in place for some time now. So my thinking is this: why does he have to take the House to have to summon the minister and the other agencies to talk about pensions? Secondly, you have said the president has listened, so he's a listening president. So he has formed a committee. Who are those in the committee? What are the issues? What is it that you are talking about? Because the issues why we are here and why you are here is because we notice there are some issues with pension and payment of pensions. So what are the issues really? You haven't said anything to us. We haven't addressed the issues. And then this same old timeline of saying it was inherited. What was inherited? What did you inherit? And then why haven't you solved that problem? Why do you have to wait for us to summon you here for you to come and tell us that it was inherited? I think that is not good enough. We need some explanations from you, and we need to understand these issues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the hands are becoming too many now. The Honorable Zachary. Please restrict ourselves to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Zachary Mohammed. I present Barote Kaya Material constituency, Mr. Speaker, from Kwara State. Honorable Minister, I actually want you to take us through how we got there. How did we get where we are? In other climes, senior citizens are treated first before other workers. So how did we get to where we are?
Honorable Betty.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Betty Apiafi. I represent Ahoda East Federal Constituency and River State. Honorable Minister, I want to ask, what effect has the envelope system got to do with this issue of pension? Because it does appear that the envelope system has created a lot of shortfalls, even in salary payment. I know that, for instance, most of the teaching hospitals have salary shortfalls for most of last year. So how has the envelope system affected this? Because I believe that it is the envelope system rather than reconciliation that has caused this problem, because from all indications, you used 2015 envelope to treat 2017 budget. Thank you.
Honorable Olainu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Olainu Olaro-Itope. Sir, my question is very short. Are there no record of the pensioners? Are Nigerians not having, all the ministry not having the total number of the service rendered by each staff or each civil servant of all ministries, police, army, or those in other ministries? If they are, do they mean there's no preparation for their exiting job, but we can think of issue of those who are to take in their place? Please, it's necessary you enlighten us on that.
I will allow the Honorable Minister to respond to some of the questions. I believe that in doing so, he will answer so many other questions that we have the intention of raising. And after he has spoken, if there's need to take more questions, then I'll recognize few members who will summarize, and then we'll close the session. Honorable Minister, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me deal with the House Leader. On a priority scale with this administration, salaries and pensions are number one. They are number one. The problem has been reconciling the numbers. Let me give you some numbers. In 2014, PENCOM estimated, they made an estimate, which was, still had to be checked, but they made an estimate of 93 billion. In 2014, 30 billion was provided. And what happened, basically from what I understand, because we were not there, so you said, what is the history? What happened was that when crude oil prices went down and we had major financial issues, the government at the time probably decided that they have to scrutinize these things very, very carefully, because you just can't take somebody's estimate. You have to make sure that it is properly, it is for the actual amount, it goes to the pensioners. And if you recall, there were at that time a number of pension scandals going on at that time. And so there was a need to rigorously check. Now, in 2015, they asked for 60 billion was provisioned. In 2016, because these checks hadn't been done, 50 billion was provided. And let me explain how this works. The law requires that the budget office transfers to the fund an amount based on 5% of the total wage bill. But the PENCOM makes its own calculation, and which is usually higher than that, and they're supposed to reconcile. And so that is really where the problem arose. And the DG budget is here, and he can throw further light if you require it in terms of how the problem arose. So it is a number one priority, but we have to make sure that we provide what is necessary for pensions. We have to make sure that we calculate and we know exactly how many pensioners and how much is required. It is that reconciliation that has been the cause of the problem. And we're mandated to quickly fast-track that process. It's taking too long. Fast-track that process. Actually complete it in time so that if there's any element that should be taken in the 2017 budget, it should be so taken. However, I suspect that some of it may be staggered over some time. But the fact of the matter is that the number one priority of this administration is salary and pension. Let me give you some numbers. In the 2017 budget, of our total revenues, about half of our total revenues are for salaries, total projected revenue are for salaries and pensions. About half. So nobody can say this administration does not prioritize salaries and pensions. We do. About half of the revenues are for that. So we have to look, and that is why the Minister of Finance will have to look at creative ways, because we don't have the money. But that the entitlements must be met. They must be. That is a requirement. However, we have limited resources. So part of what this committee is going to look at is going to look at creative ways of meeting maybe some promissory bills or some other creative ways. But we must. Every pensioner must be paid. And that is the directive. So I ask for your understanding. This is a top number one priority for this administration. And it's for the president, it is a top priority. And which is why we allocated in the 2017 budget, about half of our revenues are for salaries and pensions. So that is the message I want to, and we will reconcile this, and we will look in addition to, because not all of it can be taken into the budget, there's no doubt about it. The resources are not there. But we will have to look at creative means of trying to make sure that we are current, and we will do it, and that is a commitment. Thank you very much.
We'll take 4 more maximum, 2 from this row, 2 from this row, and then we'll close. Minority Whip. Then I talk.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Yakubu Umar Bade. I represent Chikun Kajuru Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, mine is not a question, but it's a suggestion with the leave of Mr. Speaker, that the issue of pension are interwoven with the office of the Honorable Minister of Budget and Planning, the Minister of Finance, and the DG Budget Pension Office. If Mr. Speaker and honorable colleague were allowed, I think some of the questions that most of my colleagues will have might be answered if we allow the DG Budget Office and the Honorable Minister of Finance address us while we list the questions that we have, so that if it entails the DG budget to answer, when a member raises up to ask that question, the DG DG pension could come up and answer the question. So I think it will help us to moderate some of the questions that we have so that we can save time. It's just a suggestion, Mr. Speaker.
Well, thank you for that observation, but you notice that there's a directive for them to form a committee. So discussing the issues will just amount to, I don't know, except that committee concludes its action or activities, you may not be in the position to address most of the issues that we want to address. Honorable Dambara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Dambram Abubakar Nuhu, representing Kano Municipal from Kano State. Honorable Minister, I will just refer you to perhaps maybe some of the figures which you quoted. The total outstanding liabilities for federal government pension from January to December 2016 stands at about 91.4 billion. And only about 50 billion was appropriated in the 2016 Act. That's the Appropriation Act. Now my question to you, Honorable Minister, is how will the budgeting process ensure adequate appropriation of the amount required to promptly pay the outstanding liabilities? Thank you.
Move to this row, Honorable Jones.
Mr. Speaker, my dear honorable colleagues, Honorable Minister, I was a little bit taken aback by your presentation, but nonetheless, I'm also tempted to ask a few questions which we believe will be the very essence of our meeting with you today. Because the bottom line is that there are huge pension liabilities that we must pay. We must bridge that gap. And if you look critically from when you were summarizing your submission, you said it borders on issues of verification. But I can say to you that it's within the purview of PITAD in consultation with PENCOM to do the necessary verification. And I'm also aware that PENCOM has done detailed verification and enrollment of these FGN retirees. By our last account, there are over 19,000 FGN retirees that are still expecting to be paid the necessary pension. Now, PENCOM has gone a step forward to propose over 113 billion naira. Unfortunately, what you have proposed from your ministry in the 2017 appropriation bill that is before us is about 50 billion. There is a huge shortfall. The point is, what would you do to bridge this gap? That is the very essence of our meeting with you. And I think we need to have full details before we leave here.
Honorable Marako.
I told you that if it's not enough, we'll come back to you. That's what you told me. Supplementary.
Let him announce.
There's supplementary before the budget is passed. That is wrong.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable members, my name is Onyemechi Mrako. I represent Aniocha Oshimili Federal Constituency. The Honorable Minister, my question is simple. It's a fact that people are hired, and it's also a fact that they have exit dates. What are you bringing in to make sure that when people are exiting from service, it's no longer a regrettable exercise? That's simply my question. Something new that you're bringing in. Thank you.
So we have taken 2 from this row, 2 from this row, and then we close the question in there. Honorable Minister, you may wish to respond, please.
A question was asked whether the envelope system is responsible. It is not. We're not using the envelope system. A question was asked as to whether, when we reconcile, we'll be able to accommodate everything in the budget. Until we reconcile, I don't know. However, I did say that we're going to have to look for creative ways of raising funds, because I doubt whether we'll be able to accommodate everything, because there are just limited funds. And as far as reconciliation is concerned, what the law actually requires the Budget Office and PENCOM to reconcile. Because if I look at the summary that PENCOM provided, it talks about 9,652 estimated death claims, 20% marked up of the 2016 submitted claims. So these are all estimates. The estimate of employees yet to be enrolled. So there is some interrogation, because these are all estimates. There is some necessary interrogation, and that's why the law requires that process to take place. So I'm just pleading with you, let's allow that process to take place so that we can sort this matter up of once and for all. I thank you for your understanding. This is a matter, as I said, is... I think I've answered the questions.
Order, honourable members.
Finance, some of those questions may be for the finance minister, but...
Silence, honourable members, please. Order. Order, honourable members, please. Please.
Let's hear from the finance minister.
Okay, Honourable Minister has spoken. The finance minister, in case you have something to add, may wish to take the center stage so they can answer some of the questions that have been raised. Finance Minister.
Please, please, honourable members, please. Please, order. Order, honourable members, please.
Is it on? The Right Honourable Speaker, Right Honourable Deputy Speaker, Leadership of the House, and members, Honourable Members, thank you very much for this invitation. I'm just going to add a little to what my colleague, the Honourable Minister for Budget and Planning, has already announced. That is, well, I think firstly that I need to tell you that this is a very welcome initiative. The issue of pensions is not really a money issue, it's a people issue. And so it needs to be taken very seriously. And when elders have served and expect that when they finish service they will get their money, and that expectation is not met, it's quite a serious issue. And so the President, as the Minister has said, has asked for a committee to be put together to try and reconcile and get to the bottom of some of the issues. But let me speak to one or two of the questions raised and shed some light from the finance perspective on why we have these shortfalls in payment. Having said that, yesterday we released the sum of 42 billion to clear all the arrears. Everything that has been appropriated up to date has now been paid. I also would like to tell you that PATAD are completely up to date in terms of payment of those who are enrolled. So it is a problem, but there is a lot of progress that has been made in the area of pensions, and I think it's only fair to say that. But let me shed light on why we have this big problem, and it's largely, it's actually concentrated to a number of areas. But having said that, this is not just a federal government problem. There's actually also a problem in the state governments with pensions and gratuities. So it's actually a national problem. So calling us together like this, I think, is actually a very good move. But let me shed some light on the difference between what PENCOM requests and what goes into the appropriation and the impact it's having. And that is what the Minister was trying to explain, or indeed explained. Under the Pension Reform Act, there is a provision that past services, so many, from 2004, we started the contributory pension scheme. But many people that are retiring, as you can imagine, somebody retiring this year only did 17 years or 16 years under contributory. Their first 19 years of service is under the old scheme. And that is what the 5% redemption bond is supposed to cover. And that's the request that PENCOM makes every year. So once PENCOM makes that request based on their estimates of what is needed, if the appropriation doesn't meet it, automatically there's a shortfall. And what makes it worse is that the law, and this is an area where the legislature may need to look at, the law says that the pension contribution and the accrued pension rights together with accrued investment income shall at the point of retirement be consolidated before a holder of an RSA can access his retirement funds. So that's what's causing the problem. Even the money that the person himself has contributed, they cannot access until government pays the accrued pension rights. And if the appropriation is less than what was accrued, automatically you have a problem. So that's really what is causing this problem. And over the years, PENCOM have analysed how much they've asked for and how much has been granted, and that was what the Minister was talking about, and the gap is quite significant. So it isn't an issue that 1 year of budget, which is what the Minister was saying, and I totally agree with that position, can solve. Because, for example, in 2014, 91 was requested, 30 was appropriated. That was 2014. 2015, 98 was requested, 60 was appropriated. In 2016, 91 and 50. And even what was appropriated is often not cash back. Part of what we paid yesterday was 2014. It was appropriated in 2014 and we've cash backed it in 2017. So those are the sorts of issues that we need to work through. So I think I'd like to plead that you give us time. The President has prioritised it. He's very concerned about pensions and gratuities and people, really. And so if you give us time to please go away, there are, as the Minister said, many issues. There are issues with police pensions, there are issues with military pensions, there are issues with arrears, but the big issue is under appropriation, consistently over a number of years that has led to the challenges that we now face. But it has to be sorted out. I'm not sure it can be sorted out in 1 year, but it does have to be addressed. Thank you very much. Thank you, Excellency.
Chairman, Committee on Pensions.
Thank you very much.
Honourable Minister, we have noticed.
I should sit down.
Ask questions.
I should stay. Oh, okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honourable colleagues, I'm highly delighted today that the issue of pension problems have come to the light, and I'm happy that the two ministers have confirmed that they know the problem and they know the challenges. Secondly, I'm happy that Mr. President has already directed that action has to be taken. We quite appreciate that, and we hope those who are concerned will take the directives of Mr. President seriously. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to make clarification with the submission of Honourable Minister. Quite okay. The pensioners under PITAD are up to date in the payment of their monthly pension. But there is one lingering problem that either the Minister of Budget or Finance has not highlighted. In 2010, there was salary increase of 53%. Pensioners demanded for that. It was not given, but they negotiated it and arrived at 33%. The quantum of that arrears is to the tune of 174 billion, Mr. Speaker. So I want to bring this to the notice of the Honorable Minister so that when they go for reconciliation, they should take that, they shouldn't think that all is well with PITAD, because that amount of money has to be handled and tackled by PITAD. I'm happy that they have now seen the challenges pertaining to PENCOM, the issue of that percent redemption, which she spoke about the law. Actually, if releases and funding are adequate, there is no issue with regard to the law, Mr. Speaker. So I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope my senior citizens who are here seated will go back home with a kind of relief that Mr. President is on top of the situation. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Lasun Yusuf. I represent Irepodun Olorunda Orodu Osogbo Federal Constituency. I'm from the state of Osun. My own is advisory. And I'm happy when the Minister of Finance was giving our own brief. It goes to the heart of democracy that the executive at all times must look at those laws that are backing up their operations and see those areas that need amendments to make sure that issues like this don't come up. And I will make specific. You said because of the fact that the last 19 years, up to 2016 or something, will be those ones who are not on the list of contributory pension, and that the money must first of all come into the consolidated account before it is appropriated. But now we have people who have to contribute, and their money too must come to consolidated revenue. The first thing that one must do in that instance is that that particular section of the law, you should have approached the legislator for it to be amended in a way. So it is advisory in the sense that henceforth, the executive must know that the policy of government is one way or the other, is either negatively or positively impacted on the welfare of the people. And so, please, when you get back to the executive, always look at those laws. See those ones that you need to bring to the legislator so that we don't have this kind of problem. Everybody knows that when there is a shortfall in what you are appropriated for and what you're supposed to pay, of course, the first law says there is already a problem. But mine is there must be constant understanding. And that's why in democracy, executive alone cannot sit down in the confines of their office and do things and think it will easily pass through. So what you have done this morning from your own brief speech is to show that the executive refused or probably did not understand well enough that they have to constantly and continuously look into the heart that is backing up on their operations and make sure that the relevant section of those acts are always, refined, amended to make sure that we don't get ourselves into this problem.
Honorable Jagaba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. Jagaba Adams, Jagaba is my name, representing Kechia Kadelko Federal Constituency, Kaduna State. Mr. Speaker, I have some few remarks here. One, the issue of screening. It appears some of our pensioners are being punished so much as if we don't even value their sacrifice for this country. At times, they call them for screening here in Abuja. You discover that some of them died in that process. And some cannot even come for the screening exercise because some of them are already deformed. Like, I know somebody, for instance, Mr. Speaker, who has been on bed, confined to his bed for 25 years as a former serviceman. And what are you doing to kind of reduce that problem for them? Are you planning to take it to the state or local government level to reduce that problem so that we get the accurate figure? Two, The release pattern, Mr. Speaker, of pension, we want to know, how do they release? We are happy she just mentioned that she made some releases. Is it because maybe she's coming here today, or there's a pattern they follow in doing these releases? And apart from this, Mr. Speaker, the banks, when you make your releases, how do you ensure that this money goes straight to the owners instead of some cabal to stock this money in bank and do trading before giving them to pensioners? Lastly, what are you doing to check the resurfacing of dead pensioners named on the payroll? Thank you very much.
Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Honorable Alhassan Ado Dogwa. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I represent Dogwa Tujungwada Federal Constituency from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, my own is a small observation coming from the perspective of making a clear clarification. And this clarification for me is fundamental. Fundamental because in the course of her presentation, the Honorable Minister for Finance consistently said the problem has consistently been an issue of appropriation. Consistently, making reference to 2014, 2015, 2016. From the perspective of our democratic codes, I'm making reference to the constitutional provisions and the separation of powers. Every Nigerian knows that you don't have the powers to appropriate. What you only have to do is to initiate and cause for estimates proposals and bring to the House of Representatives or to the National Assembly. So when you kept on saying it's about appropriation, it means the ball is in our court here. So I want to say on behalf of my people here, as members of the National Assembly representing our people in these hallowed chambers, and identifying with the plight of Nigerians, especially the pensioners under discussion, we will always be ready to appropriate for you because the powers of appropriation belongs to us. So the point is that you should prioritize while you are making estimates. And when you prioritize in your estimates and brings to us, the House is the House of Nigerian people. We will be ready to appropriate for you so that this continuous issue can be solved once and for all. Thank you.
Honorable Toby, who has been following up this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu. I represent an area of Woji River Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Honorable Minister of Planning and Budget, they are here. I've been I've moved 2 motions within the past 2 weeks, and I'm happy it's part of the process that they are here. Well, in our place they ask, is it because the barber doesn't know how to shave? Or is it because the clipper or the blade is not sharp? Or is it both? Well, I believe strongly that there is, first and foremost, inadequate appropriation. No appropriation. As a matter of fact, what was required as of 2016 was 91 billion. 50 was appropriated, and what was released as our last count before yesterday was less than 41 billion. And yesterday, 41 billion has been released. So I believe this invitation is working. But there is a difference between release and cash backing. When will this be cash backed, Honorable Minister? 2 is that His Excellency, the Deputy Speaker, said that it is important that the executive or any concerned person in Nigeria approaches the legislature when issues that border on concerns with regard to our laws, are on the table. This instance, I believe that for other reasons they could approach us, but in this instance, where the contributory pension scheme is that government contributes 5%, and the individual retiree or employer contributes his own portion. We are not going to amend the law for government to do its job. It is not part of our process. We are calling government to contribute its own so that the process of activation of the contributory pension is done as somebody goes out of service. So it's merely asking you to do your job. It is not a matter of amending the law. And I'm happy that the Minister of Budget and Planning and Minister of Finance has said that this is an issue that is about persons. It's about retirees. It's not a matter of project. I do not see why in this republic we should be treating issues with regard to emoluments of persons, whether pension or salary, as a project. We are treating it as if it's capital project you release at any time. You release it at its when due, monthly. You should have first line charge. We don't have to wait 2017 to release 41 billion that is due in 2016. That's not how it's done. So, yeah, no. The appropriation for 2016 was done.
Order, please.
And we are
members, please. Honorable members, listen in silence, please.
We are releasing monies that ought to be paid in 2016 alongside the appropriation in 2017 because we just released it yesterday and it's not cash backed.
So thank you, Honorable Toby. Take two more, Minority Leader and Honorable Aishatu Duku, and they will close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my respected colleagues. I remain Leo Okuwe Ogo, representing Isoko Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, I'm from Delta State. Let me first and foremost commend everybody for finding time to discuss this issue. I believe that what we are here to do is to find a means of solving a problem that is before us as a nation. Clearly, like the minister said, it is a product that they inherited. And I want to tell him also that government is a continuous process, so you don't complain about inheritance. You campaigned and you won and you need to carry over the problem. But my reference point here, and which is very straightforward, is that the minister told us that a committee has been set up. This committee is to liaise with the pensioners and all the bodies and be able to find a lasting solution to the pension problem. I think what we need to look at, my respected colleague, is to see how quick this report will be coming from the committee, and the report of the committee should be a subject matter that we must show interest in. And I believe that what we can actually ask here is that the Honorable Minister, vis-a-vis our pensioners, because one day, we'll all become pensioners and we'll be looking for means of making sure that we are paid. Let me learn, please. The time frame that this report will come out. So if we have an idea of this whole issue, then these core questions, to my mind, might not be necessary at this particular time till we get the report and we'll be able to find solution in that report. So I appeal that we give them the opportunity and privilege of liaising with the pensioners and all the various institutions, but let them give us a time frame with which they will submit this report, and on the basis of that report, we will demand for that report and we'll be able to find a lasting solution to it. I appeal that we look at this possibility. Thank you.
Aisha Duku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I'm Honorable Aisha Jibril Duku, Gimbiar Duku, member representing Dukuna for the Federal Constituency. I'm from Gombe State. Honorable Ministers, I want to commend the Buhari-led administration for having a human face. Looking at our elder statesmen here today, I want to commend the efforts of the ministers for looking at this issue despite the historical perspective of the problem at hand. We know that you are doing your best, and we believe that, yes, we know you are doing your best, and we know that, inshallah, our elder statesmen will soon start smiling, and we know that very soon it will be a thing of the past. I want to urge our elder statesmen to continue to pray for the good health of our president, and inshallah, you will smile. Thank you very much.
You see, we can continue on and on and on and on. We will never finish. I can see many hands being raised, but I believe that most of the issues have been canvassed. There aren't any new things. What I can see about two that have been consistent in raising their hands, it has been comments. Honorable Doze, and then Aliu Madaki. We'll hear you and close. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, and the Minister. My name is Honorable Ferdinand Doze Nwankwo. I represent Njikoka and Ocha, Dunukofia Federal Constituency, and I'm from Anambra State. Honorable Minister, I want to first of all thank and commend this government, the APC-led government of our president. When I was coming to the office this morning, I heard over the radio that 51 or 52 billion was released this morning. And I was very, very impressed. And I wanted to also commend and thank this parliament, this state assembly, the house of the people. This house is the house of the people. And because our voices has been raised, and you can see the federal government is doing something already. But my question is, the minister, just one question for you. I want it in figure, please. From the inception of the Pension Reform Act 2014 and its consequent amendment in 2014 to date, how much has the federal government contributed as its contribution to the pension fund administrators? In figure, I have so many questions to ask, but because of want of time, I just asked only this question. Thank you so much.
Madaki, last intervener.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for finally recognizing me. Mr. Speaker, I want to be very, very sincere. What we expected from the two ministers was to give us detailed briefing on the pension fund administration. But I'm sure that is not what we got this morning. What we got from the two honorable ministers, especially from the Minister of Finance, was simply buck passing. Yes. This government has been in power, our government, for 2 years. Yes. We cannot come here. Please, I don't want to hear any yes. I'm speaking. Our government has been in power for 2 years. You cannot come here and start telling me this is the
order, please. Silence, honorable members.
In 2019,
listen to Madaki in silence.
2012. What are you doing now? And in your statement here, you said even in last year's budget, we had deficit, which means what happens before is what we are experiencing in this our change government. Yes. Nigerians deserve better. Nigerians deserve better. Yes. Those administering pension administration in Nigeria should sit up. These are issues. If you want to fight corruption, a civil servant must know that when he retires, his pension will be paid to him as and when due. You must fight corruption in the proper way you go about it. So, Mr. Minister, with all that you have said, I have just a little question. What are the measures now that you have put in place to ensure prompt release of funds? Thank you.
So that's the last intervention. And before I call on the minister to respond,
silence, please.
Before I call on the minister to respond, let me announce that there was a Twitter account open for this interaction.
Please.
And because we wanted to expand the engagement to include citizens' participation. A number of questions were raised. Most of the questions have been addressed.
Please,
so
silence.
Of particular interest to me, in line with the contribution of Honorable Jagaba, is an observation by a Nigerian known as Nenna Ngudike. He said, how can the verification process be made easier? It is a common sight to see pensioners fainting during screening. So is there a way that biometrics can be taken without so much stress? Perhaps BVN can be used instead. So I guess that's a suggestion. It's not a direct question. So Minister, you can join this to the questions that you want to address.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Right Honourable Members, for your questions. I started off by saying that this wasn't a money issue, and I stand by it. It's a people issue, and it's not a partisan issue. And I think it's wrong for anybody to say that we are passing the buck. But it is a fact that we inherited a problem. That's a fact. It can't be disputed, and it cannot be denied. Part of the money that was released yesterday relates to 2014. We're in 2017. But they shouldn't try that one out.
Honourable members.
Honourable Toby.
Honourable Toby Chuku.
Toby, please.
Toby, please.
Can we have one
silence,
house?
Please, honourable members. Please, honourable members.
Honourable Kazaure, you are late and you are still putting up your hands.
Please, silence, please. Honourable members, please. Let's listen in silence, please. Order, honourable members, please. Order, honourable members. Silence, please.
Honourable Karimi, please. Madaki, one house, please. Let's listen to the minister in silence.
We have released pensions as and when due, and that's a big change. And the other thing that I must also point out is the fact that there's a lot of reform already going on in pensions, and the DG Patad is here and the PNCOM people are also here. The days of where verification was done in Abuja, where thousands of pensioners came to queue in the hot sun, is a thing of the past. They do mobile verification in each local government. And for those who are bedridden or unable to come, they actually go and visit them in their houses. So those are reforms. The DG Patad is already working. The DG of Patad is already working on a verification system that will use voice technology, whereby a pensioner can phone in to confirm by phone that they are alive. Those things are being rolled out. So there is a lot of difference for the pensioners. The problems, as I said, are historical problems. They need to be reconciled, they need to be looked at very carefully, and that's what we're doing. Let me speak specifically to the question raised by the Honourable about arrears in Patad, 33% increase. And as you'll remember, this increase was from 2010, but no appropriation was made until 2014, if you recall. So those arrears actually, again, if I say it's from the past, I'll be shouted down, but it's from not this period. And as we speak now, it's yet to be resolved. So those arrears are still there. Some have been paid, but those arrears are still there. But there are other issues. There are issues which Patad has made significant progress in bringing out some of the assets that related to some of the companies that were sold, like PHCN and so on and so forth. They had assets in their pension fund. She's been going around retrieving those assets, bringing them back from the insurance companies and various asset managers that held them, so that we can actually get this money to those who are entitled to it. So I repeat what I said, that this is not a money issue. We're all going to grow old one day. And so we must take the issue of pensions very seriously, and this government does. We released 42 billion yesterday, not because of this invitation, but because we have been waiting to accumulate sufficient funding. What we had heard from PENCOM was that they didn't want us to continue to pay 2017 when people from 2014 had not been paid. And therefore we sat with them and said, bring all the arrears, everything that has been appropriated in the past, whether for this sitting or previous sittings, gather everything and let's pay those ones first, so that those who have been waiting the longest can be paid quickly. We have paid 17. We have paid up to March 2017, but this was an issue of arrears and we needed to clear it. And we took a decision with the President. Do we allocate this money to further capital projects, or do we take the issue of pensioners? And the decision was taken that we must clear this historical issue, and that's what we've done. The other issue is about whether releases are cash-backed. And
Please, honourable members, please.
Thank you very much. The other issue, since we're talking about change, about whether a release is cash-backed. Under this administration, we run a daily cash position. We don't sign anything unless there's cash. So when we release, it is automatically cash-backed. So that 42 billion is fully cash-backed and will be moved to PENCOM. I believe the AIE has already been signed, so we don't do release and then you wait for months for cash back in. We actually cash back immediately. Thank you very much for all your questions, and thank you for this opportunity. Please give us time for the committee to get together and we'll come back to you with our findings, and I assure you it'll be very comprehensive and very thorough and give us a roadmap to solving this problem permanently. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. Yeah. So I think it's only proper to call on, It's only proper to call on the representative of the pension unions or any of the senior citizens in case they have anything to say. One person. One. If there's nothing to say, then we move on.
Please, honourable members, please. Silence, please. Please, honourable members, please. Please, honourable members, silence, please.
Okay, if there's no intervention from them, then we move on. because of our time. Baba, for one of time, we'll be giving you 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
The Right Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, the Chairman, Committee on Pension, our beloved friend. I am Dr. Ebe Oyelaki Afolayan, the National President of the Nigerian Union of Pensioners. I'm from Osun State. I want to use this opportunity to thank Mr. President. He is a listening president. And we are praying for him day and night. Because we know he is also a pensioner like us. And we are also aware that many of you honorable members are pensioners like us. And one injury to one pensioner is injury to all pensioners. So we thank Mr. President for listening to our chairman and the Right Honorable Speaker for this sitting, for this hearing, because the whole nation is listening and watching us. We appreciate the Right Honorable Speaker, sir. We thank you very, very much. And want to thank all the honorable members. We now realize strongly, we believe strongly that you are truly representing us. And we want you to continue like that. You know, 2019 is coming. We have thousands of votes. Some of us have 4 wives, some of us 3 wives, some of us 2 wives, but I have 1 wife. But we have relations whom we can tell, vote for this, don't vote for this. We want to thank the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Budget and Planning. They are doing their very best to address our problem. Now, the balance of the 33% pension arrears, we want the balance to be paid speedily within the next 1 month. Because the police pensioners have been paid for only 3 months out of 42 months. Because they cannot protest. In and out of service, police cannot protest. So we want all the arrears to be paid. Once again, we want to thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. It doesn't come often to come into this hallowed chamber to appear before honorable members and before the Nigerian public. So we are very grateful. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, parting words or the last word from me before we close this session. Now, what I want to say is that pursuant to the resolution of this House, I'd had preliminary discussion with the President. And as the Minister rightly pointed out, he directed that the outcome of this engagement was resolve this lingering problem. And he said he was monitoring the interaction we had with the senior citizens, and particularly was moved by a gentleman he saw on camera whom he had met governor while he was a military head of state. And because when the president speaks, he speaks from his heart, not from his head. And since he has directed the ministers that they must solve this problem, I believe this problem will be solved. This House will not accept any excuse that leaves part of these pension funds hanging. When the president made a commitment that he was going to release money to states to bail out states so that they can pay backlog of salaries and pensions, it happened. Even though we were in the midst of a very biting recession. Now the president has said this issue of pension must be solved. I don't know where we got the money to bail out the states from. Wherever we got that money from, that is where we're going to get the money to solve these problems. And for the ministers who are representative of the president, I believe you won't make him break his word, because it's a word that we cherish. I want to believe that this will be the last intervention we'll be having with regards to the issue of pensions in this country. That is my charge. And the message I'll be sending, or the House will be sending to the President through the ministers, is that when you meet him to brief him on the outcome of this engagement, just tell him that we have taken his word to the bank. And not even cash back. What happens when they refuse to honor your check? The check is dishonored. We have taken his words to the bank, and we believe that we will cash it. So thank you very much. You are now discharged. May wish to take your leave.
was a live session between members of the House of Representatives and the Ministers of Budget, National Planning and that of Finance, where the two ministers briefed members of the House on what the present administration is doing to ensure that the challenges of Nigerian pensioners is being addressed. In fact, the ministers said that the presidency has already released 54 billion naira to clear the backlog of pension arrears which stem from 2014. In fact, they were particular about this backlog. That major problem is a result of lack of cash backing in the previous years, which has resulted to a backlog, which is causing some of these challenges. And the ministers also say that the presidency, has directed an immediate constitution of a special committee that will take a holistic and critical look at the problems of Nigerian pensioners and ensure that the lasting solution is preferred. The two ministers also stressed the fact that the issue of salaries and pensions remains topmost on the president's agenda. That is why in the 2017 total revenue, half of it actually was allotted to salaries and pension. As it is right now, we'll now hand you over to our studios for the continuation of the scheduled programs for the day. I am Ignatius Nkwo, and on behalf of the crew, I say bye and enjoy the rest of your day.